Did you know the earliest records of Quidditch come from a nosy neighbor? Let's go over the history of Quidditch. The first record of Quidditch comes from the diary of an 11th century witch named Gertie Kettle. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Here's her diary. I'll read some of the passages. Tuesday, hot. That lot from across the marsh have been at it again, playing a stupid game on their broomsticks. A big leather ball landed in my cabbages. I hexed the man who came for it. I like to see him fly with his knees on back to front, the great hairy hog. Okay, so I just want to talk about this entry for a second. Someone's ball lands in your cabbages, and your first instinct is to just hex them? Not to try to talk to them, or just ask that they be more careful around your land. You just go straight to assault. That's wild. Anyway, the second entry reads, Tuesday, wet. I was out on the marsh picking nettles. Broomstick idiots playing again. Watched for a bit from behind a rock. They've got a new ball. Throwing it to each other and trying to stick it in the trees at either end of the marsh. Pointless rubbish. Okay, so not much really to gather from this entry other than they are now using trees as goalposts. Tuesday, windy. Gwenog came for nettle tea, then invited me up for a treat. Ended up watching those numbskulls playing their game on the marsh. That big Scottish warlock from up the hill was there. Now they've got two big heavy rocks flying around trying to knock them all off their brooms. Unfortunately, it didn't happen while I was watching. Gwenog told me she often played herself. Went home in disgust. I hope I'm saying that name correctly, but now we've got some development. Looks like here that we're seeing what is the early stages of what will become the bludgers. I guess back in the day they just used heavy rocks, which if you ask me seems just as dangerous as Krailson. If you don't know what I'm referring to, we did some videos over different broomstick games that were played back in the day. Highly recommend you go check those out. Notice there is no mention of the golden snitch. Don't worry, we'll get there. But before we do, I just wanted to remind everyone that there's some giveaways I'm doing. If that doesn't interest you, feel free to skip past this part. So I'm giving away a 2023 Collector's Edition wand when I hit 50 subscribers on YouTube, a different 2023 Collector's Edition wand when I hit 50 followers on Twitch, a cup of Hufflepuff from Noble Collection when I hit 50 followers on TikTok, which we are really close to hitting that goal. And then finally, once all of those platforms each get 100 followers, I'm giving away a Sorcerer's Stone also from Noble Collection. So if any of that interests you, now you know. There is no further mention of the game until a century later, which we get from a letter. Letters from a wizard, Goodwin Neen, who is writing to a cousin of his. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but it basically talks about how he recently enjoyed a game of Quidditch, spelled Kwidditch. So a little off on the spelling still. And here we learn that they have come up with some names for some of the different positions. You have the catcher, which is probably later renamed to chaser, and they have named one of the balls a bludder. Considering one of the players got a bludder to the head, it's safe to assume that this is probably what's later known as a bludger. We also learned that instead of trees, they're now using barrels for goalposts. Alright, here we go. It's finally time to talk about the golden snitch. Okay, so to understand how we got the enchanted metal ball that we all know and love, you first have to know about snidget hunting and what a snidget is. So snidgets are small golden birds with wings that rotate 360 degrees. I don't know how that anatomy works out, but hey, it's a magical creature. They are extremely fast and very good at hiding, and unfortunately these creatures became extremely popular to hunt and catch. So in the year 1269, a wizard named Bragg, again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these names, would bring a caged snidget to a Quidditch match and offer 150 galleons to the player who was able to catch the snidget during the match. This is where we get the 150 points for catching the snitch. And this act would change the game forever, as snidgets were quickly becoming a permanent part of the game. One player from each team would officially be assigned the role of catching the snidget during the game, which sounds cool. You know, I know Seeker is my favorite role, and probably a lot of people's favorite role. However, this kind of came with a bit of a dark twist. You see, just like with the snitch, the game would only end when the snidget was caught. And unfortunately, most of the time, the snidget would be crushed when it was caught. Yeah, not great. Eventually, so many snidgets would be killed between Quidditch and snidget hunting itself that the Wizard Council would make the snidget a protected species, so they could no longer be hunted or used in the game of Quidditch. This is where the little metal enchanted ball that we all know and love finally comes into play. A wizard named Bowman Wright from Godric's Hollow, which, can we just talk about how many awesome wizards came out of Godric's Hollow? Because I'm starting to lose count. Anyway, he invented the golden snitch. He was what was known as a metal charmer, and wanted to create an object that mimicked the snidget in both flight and behavior. This image on the screen now is showing the design he had come up with. And finally, after 300 years of innovation, we finally reached the essence of what would become modern day Quidditch. We aren't done yet though, there's a couple of further improvements made to the game. In the 14th century, we finally start getting a little more regulation for the game. We actually get accurate detail that the pitch is 500 feet long and 180 feet wide. We also get the first mention of an actual referee, and that the referee is supposed to be the one to bring all the balls, the quaffle, the bludgers, and the snitch to the center of the arena, release them all, and officially start the game. And then in the year 1883, we see further regulation hit. We see that they are striving to get rid of baskets, as it's hard to standardize a size for the baskets. You know, some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller just by the way they were made and crafted. And they officially start to move towards the official goalposts that we know of from the books and the movies. This was met with a lot of backlash, actually. There's a whole news article from the Daily Prophet describing how a lot of players were very, very upset about this. In the year 1711, after a game of Quidditch on a rather muddy field, chasers had a hard time finding the quaffle after a game due to its coloring, so they officially changed the color to red so it would stand out against the muddy ground. They also noticed it was very annoying to go fly all the way to the ground to retrieve a quaffle that had been dropped or just not caught. So a charm was added to the quaffle, so when it starts falling towards the ground, it moves very, very slowly, allowing chasers to come in and grab the quaffle while it's falling. We also know that they started experimenting with full metal bludgers in the 16th century, and the cause of this was when they were using rocks. Occasionally when a beater would hit the rock towards another player, it would break, causing a lot of gravel to be shot at them. That's pretty much it. We get the official rules of Quidditch in the year 1750, as set by the Department of Magical Games, and that's pretty much it for the history of Quidditch. We have full lists of different types of fouls and moves that players used, and of course all of the different teams around the world. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And just a reminder why we're doing so many videos about Quidditch, the game Harry Potter Quidditch Champions finally got a release date, and I'm super excited to start live streaming and playing it when it comes out. I actually got to play in all of the playtests for it, which I am super appreciative of, and I'm going to be releasing all the tips and tricks I learned throughout the playtest when the game comes out. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching.